Hi, this is Sean Murphy with Sam Rines. Just to clue you in right here, we're going to call this Back in the Day. And the reason why we're doing this is a grassroots basketball look back at everything. And some of you may ask, who is Sean Murphy and why would I even care what he has to say? And for all you up-and-coming coaches and basketball fans of AAU and everything else, if you're watching Nike Peach Jam right now and you think, what do I have to do to coach in the Peach Jam final? I've done it. So 2009, coached in the Peach Jam final and came in second to All-Ohio coaching team final. The man in front of me needs no introduction. We're going to explore his career in basketball from being a player, in case nobody remembers, back in the day he used to school people. In case you have AAU coaches sometimes like myself who never knew how to play basketball and just kind of did a lot of smoke and mirrors things. This guy actually could do things. Came from a very famous basketball family. We're going to go through his career, how he began as a player, the people he mentored, the great Kobe Bryant, Richard Hamilton, two other names that nobody really talks about, Russell Butler and Matt Carroll, who deserve their props big time for longevity, and of course Tyreek Evans, and discuss what he's doing right now. Once again, helping kids get Division I basketball. And I'm not talking about the blue chipper 5-star guys. I'm talking guys that really struggled to get them off the bench in the Catholic League and even at Radnor High School. Congratulations, Jackson Gaffney. I'm shooting you out right here. Congratulations, San Diego University, signed Division I. Only one guy could have pulled that off, and the minute I saw it, I was like, only Sam Rines. So I just want to welcome Sam, a good friend of mine. They say in wrestling right now, there's this one thing. I acknowledge you, Tribal Chief. Everyone has a chief. This is my Tribal Chief. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, Sam Rines. Hope all is well. My foundation started when I was young, going through the Sunny Hill League and, learning a lot from guys like John Chaney, Sunny Hill, Speedy Morris, and, of course, my father, Sam Rines. My father just happened to be a coach at LaSalle University, and he's always had AAU/travel teams that kind of played all over the city and the area, from Chester to Jersey to New York to Philly, Abington, and he built a dynasty at Abington High School. I was lucky enough to go there, play there, and be part of that dynasty under Jim Wilkerson. I went to LaSalle because he wanted me to go to LaSalle, but I was also being recruited by Fran McCaffrey, who was at Notre Dame and at Wake Forest. I was being recruited by Jimmy Black at St. Joe's. I was recruited by Rick Pitino at Providence. I was recruited by Seton Hall as well. So, my recruitment was up and down. I had a great high school career overall. Thick scrapbook, very thick. I got a lot of ink, especially for an area kid. And I don't regret going to LaSalle, but I ran into Doug Overton, Randy Woods, Paul Burke, Kareem Towns. I played with Tim Legler, Lionel Simmons, Rich Tarr. So the traffic was a little too much for LaSalle for me to play, especially knowing that Speedy wasn't a coach that subbed a lot. But I played. It wasn't like I didn't play. I played, but I played sparingly minutes. And I always promised myself that if I ever coached, I wouldn't put other kids in that situation. And I would make them go places where they wanted to play. So, I transferred to Millersville my last year at LaSalle to try to play at Millersville. I took a half-court shot, won a trip to Florida, got suspended for 10, 12 games, and then I retired from basketball.
I never heard that story before.
I wanted to go to Disney, never been there. So I retired from basketball just to go to Disney.
Describe your game as a player. Who would you think it would be reminiscent of back in the day?
More of a Mark Jackson type player. I was 6'4", I could pass, I could really see the floor, I had a good vision. I think if my shooting was a little bit better, if I was a little bit more offensive minded, I could have played for Speedy. It wasn't like I wasn't good enough. I didn't shoot enough. I just couldn't play like that. Randy Woods was a jump shooter. Doug Overton became a jump shooter, and I don't regret staying as long as I stayed because it was a good team. I was always being promised I was going to get minutes, and it just didn't happen. Those guys were pros, NBA guys. So I don't regret sitting behind Doug Overton, which is a 10-year NBA player. I don't mind playing next to Lionel Simmons, who was an 8-year NBA player, or playing alongside of Tim Legler, who was an 8, 9, 10-year NBA player.
Do you think you kind of matched what they had brought up, where under the radar guys that were known but kind of like were able to achieve further than anybody had expected this? Well, you guys, none of those guys were Rasheed Wallace, where everyone was like, it's a definite they're going to the NBA. But all these guys, like you said, not only went to the NBA because it's nice to go to the NBA, but they stuck. Whereas like Chris Washburn and other guys like that didn't last.
Well, I was blessed to see basketball early. I was blessed with an eye that recognized talent and recognized who was good enough to make it to the NBA. So, you know, my goal and when you look at LaSalle, when my father coached at LaSalle, he had guys like Steve Black, who was drafted, but Ralph Lewis, who made the NBA for Detroit, wasn't drafted. He wasn't even offered a scholarship out of high school. But my father found him at Frankford High School when he was recruiting Tony Chenault, you know, part of the Chenault family. Okay. And he was looking at somebody else, and he found Ralph Lewis in the process. So when you have an eye for talent early, you see what it takes to get to where you got to go. You see what it takes to what people are looking for to stay in the NBA or to play college basketball. And I was blessed to have a father that had that vision. So, you know, even me, when I was done college, I ran into Kobe. So he was already coaching Kobe because Kobe's father worked at LaSalle and my father worked at LaSalle. They worked together. And when my father had to retire from coaching because he was offered an ultimatum, either you're going to become a coach or a teacher, he decided to stay a teacher and not a coach. So that's how we met Joe Bryant. I shouldn't say that. I met Joe a year earlier when I worked at Sunny Hill League camps. And I saw Kobe the summer he came from Italy. And that's how I got a chance to meet Kobe and be around Joe. And then Joe took the job the next year at LaSalle, the next fall. And it kind of spearheaded everything for Kobe to not just play for us, but to work out with us because we held our AAU team, you know, over that side. And
what was that like back then, AAU? As opposed to the craziness it is now?
It was good teams, then there was club teams. Like now, everybody's the AAU team. But back then it was, you know, Philly USA, it was Education First, Hunting Park, and Marcucci and guys like, and Hoop Group. You know, you only had 2 circuits. So you either play for Hoop Group or what's the name, or you play AAU, where Doc from Chester ran the AAU. But AAU wasn't big back then. AAU was just coming into its own, and everybody was just trying to figure it out. So once it was figured out and everybody congregated at the couple tournaments like Hoop Group and Rich Marcucci's, I forgot the name of that, something in the Woods. I forgot the name.
War in the Woods.
War in the Woods, there you go. Where you had a chance to see guys like Gary Charles with Long Island Lightning and Riverside Church and the Gauchos, and you hear about these programs because they're infamous in New York City because they go all the way back to the street ball games at Rucker Park, and you hear about these programs, and we were just a community program, and we added Kobe.
That was it. That kind of changed everything. Because I was going to ask, what's the difference between Sam Rines and I was thinking how many players over the years played for a program that called themselves James Fox and had no clue who James Fox was or where that came from?
Well, James Fox came from a community league that my father ran. But the thing is, our area was so rich in talent. Like we had Abington Friends, we had Cheltenham, we had Upper Dublin, we had Hatboro. Like all these programs, good programs, were 5-10 miles apart. So it was a concentrated area of talent, good coaches. And then we still had LaSalle High School, McDevitt, and they were in the communities in which we lived. So our leagues were always good, and the kids just went to different schools. And once we added and started going a little bit further out, and we started off in Chester. We used to go to Chester every year and play against the teams there, and Chester would bring in other teams because Doc Wilson ran the AAU stuff.
Who did Doc have? Do you remember anybody that Doc really had that was a player?
Lee Malchione, Mike Cook. I mean, he had just Chester High. I mean, Chester High alone is enough to say how good a talent that his teams were, because, you know, even though the city got most of the looks and they talked about the city more than anybody, Chester High was the most concentrated basketball talented area that I've ever seen within a stretch of time. You know, for 10 years, you know, probably 20 years, I should say, they kind of dominated for that little 5-mile radius of players. They dominated everything. Where, you know, a city school had to recruit from all over the city and all over, you know, Chester was always loaded with talent. And even the guys that didn't play basketball. I mean, think Tyreek went to American Christian. He didn't go to Chester High. And you got Jameer Nelson, you got Pearsall, you got, I mean, Woods. They had a guy named, what's the kid that went to George Union?
Are you talking about Whip?
Whip Cooper. Let me tell you something. Whip Cooper was the first Kobe Bryant.
Was he? I heard a lot of that.
Whip Cooper was the first Tyreek Evans. He was phenomenal when he was little. And I met him when he went to camp, and Fred Pickett, rest in peace, brought him over to our leagues, and he was special. You know, him and the kid went to West Virginia,
Zane
Shaw were probably the two best young backcourts I've seen in probably 30 years. 30 years, at least.
How has AAU changed even from back then in just the way the coaches and the programs deal with each other now compared to where they did before? Do you feel like there was more of a community and wanting everybody to eat, or was it dog-eat-dog back then?
It was more of a community because everybody had their neighborhood. Like Wilmington had Wilmington, Chester had Chester, Abington had Abington. And the Sunny Hill League was based on community-developed programs. Once AAU came into effect, everybody tried to claim all the best players. And it started with Frank Bird. Frank Bird did a great job of assimilating good talent from all over the city, suburbs, Jersey, Philly. And, you know, where Honey Park had probably as good a team, if not better, where they just concentrated more on the kids that went to Gratz and the kids that went to Edison and you know, just the little area that played at the Honey Park Rec Center. And then when ABCD started, Tennis Young and Coach Greg started pulling kids from other areas like South Philly and parts of North Philly that they never dealt with, and West Philly, and trying to get these kids involved. And West Philly, even though they were always loaded with talent, was kind of left out. West Philly, Northeast, they were kind of left out of the circle as far as, like, you know, playing on teams. Like Charles Monroe, he had a liking for the South Philly guys because he was coaching at Newman at the time, and he started his program based on the kids from South Philly. Because let's be honest, South Philly probably had the most talent out of everybody. It's just they never came out of South Philly. They always stayed in South Philly. And guys like Mr. Bill, he had .3s, and they stayed in their little community until the league started fading out. The Sunny Hill League started fading out. Total Response started fading out. And it wasn't a result of AAU. It was more a result of high school basketball developing leagues and fall leagues and spring leagues for high school basketballs. Like that kind of took away from the Sunny Hill League and everything else from the community stuff. And then when the AAU teams realized that they can work with the high school coaches, that's when AAU took off. Probably about 95, 94, the AAU team started to really practice and develop and kind of grow a little bit. And then by 98, 99, 2000, it took off.
How old were you around that time? You had to be relatively young when you were introduced to Kobe and getting into it. Your playing career had just ended, what, a year or two before that?
Yeah, I was 21, 22 when I got into the AAU circuit and learning, you know, who was doing what and what everybody was doing. And I was well respected because I was already coaching in Sunny Hill. So my father wasn't allowed to coach. So I had to coach all the teams when I was in high school and college. So I was coaching my peers just because he wasn't allowed to coach and we didn't trust anybody. So we would have a parent just sit on the bench and act like he was coaching. And I would coach literally while I was in the game. And then for the future league, which is the 9th and 10th graders, I was in 11th and 12th coaching them. And I was coaching guys like Binky, Harry Allen, Charles Grasty. Like I was their coach.
Oh, you were?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, it's a respect between all of us because I was their OG. You know, back then, you know, I was their guy, even though I'm their peer, I was still their OG because I was slightly older than those guys. And we all are good players. And they respect that. And I respect them because as far as I was concerned, I made them better than what I was. Guys like Harry and Binky, you know, I gave them confidence and helped them with their careers, making them think they were as good as the city guys because remember, the suburban guys wasn't getting that same love as the city guys.
I do think, like, once Kobe's era came around, because it wasn't just Kobe, it was Richard Hamilton, there was another guy named Abdul Collier, Mike Cook, John Allen. All of a sudden, there started to be some guys. Who do you think contributed to the explosion of AAU more? Do you think it was more Kobe, or do you think it was DeJuan Wagner?
See, DeJuan was more Jersey, so it was hard. But Starkey did a great job.
Who is Starkey?
Starkey was a guy from Downingtown that kind of spun off of Doc because Doc got sick. And, you know, Starkey spun off of Doc and started expanding what Doc didn't want to do. And same with Howard Hudson. They all worked together and they did Chester, Coatesville, whoever thought they would ever get along, but Chester, Coatesville, and some Harrisburg, which are 3 little cities in Pennsylvania loaded with talent. So, you know, you get the 2 best players from Harrisburg, the 2 best players from Chester, and the 2 best players from Coatesville. It doesn't matter who else you got.
Exactly. You have
you got the top guys in the state. So, you know, they were doing that for at least 10, 15 years, you know, loaded with talent every single year. They would beat everybody, they would dominate, but they didn't want to play in the city. They played more AAU and then out of the city, but they had very good teams.
Do you think the neighborhood is overemphasized at times? Like even talking about the Battle of the Bell, and it's such a good thing to get the communities around. A lot of times it feels like that's K-Lo or Philly Pride Super Bowl, but for team final, it's more like it's hard to get up for that because you're playing all these games all this time, and at the end you're the away team in a game that if you lose, that's your excuse.
Well, I think team finals separated themselves early because they were the first ones to stand out. Like when everything changed, like when I got out the game, I think team final was the first one to stand out away from everybody because their philosophy was to win and to try to get the best players. Our philosophy was different, so we couldn't compare ourselves to a team final. But when Philly Pride got their Under Armour contract and K-Lo got their Adidas contract, they had to follow the same structure as team final, and now all of a sudden you're competing with players, trying to get players from all over. And team final had a bigger area to cover where K-Lo and Pride were more in the city, where team final was more everything around the city.
What was Sam Rines coming up with? What was your goal more than anything? Because what I noticed from the outside looking in at one time, number one, you're a businessman. I'm not going to lie. For the first time I went to a tournament, but also you were working everybody. But then I would see the same kids who played against you in your own tournament playing, wearing a Sam Rines jersey the next. Well,
Sam Rines was the king of the suburbs. You know, we didn't really go into the city until other people started expanding in the suburbs. So when K-Lo came into the suburbs, I went into the city because I dealt with a different type of clientele. I also knew I had guys like Brother Leon that had kids from the bottom that nobody dealt with. I had Marv Kilgore who did with, he had the guys in Greater Northeast and Logan who most people didn't deal with. They dealt with the best players, but they didn't want to deal with the second best player or the third best player. So when you look at how the city was made up, the city is made up in different sections in which certain individuals stood out from schools. But if they didn't go to a big school like Gratz or Roman or Newman, nobody wanted to deal with those kids. So, you had kids from the Northeast. Nobody dealt with the kids from the Northeast. Nobody dealt with the kids from Edison or Bach or probably never even heard of Bach, right?
I have heard of Bach. Rashid Arnold?
Yeah.
Was his name?
Yeah. Nobody wanted to deal with those kind of kids because the Sunny Hill League was closing and where those kids would have stood out at those kind of schools, they weren't standing out. I mean, Darryl Schofield, he the one that got kids from Strawberry Mansion, other than Maurice Rice. He's the one that got other kids from Strawberry Mansion to stand out, like O.T., Fatty.
Who was Darryl Schofield, for anybody who doesn't really remember? Rest in peace, Sco. We miss you.
Well, Sco got me into the prep school game. I met Sco. Matter of fact, Sco turned me on to AAU too.
Oh, he did. He saw the potential. You were more like a suburban. Sam Rines was always a teacher first, right? Rather than an AAU coach.
Well, I met Sco at the first tournament I ever went to. Him and Ashley Howard's uncle, not Mo Howard. I forgot his name, but Mr. Howard and Schofield was with Education First. And they had a tournament where they brought up DC Assault and all these other teams. First time I met Curtis Malone and Troy Weaver and all those guys. And I was like, where did all these teams come from? Like, what is this? Trying to figure it out. And Schofield spent about an hour outside explaining to me what was going on, how to get the Adidas contracts and how to ask for money and where these teams came from. And he had a prep school called Philadelphia Christian Academy.
Okay. So this was like 2002, 2001, right?
Nah,
he took it over. I remember Paul Reiser started it like right when I was in college.
It was 1994, 95, 96.
Really?
Yes,
Back then?
Before Kobe. It was before Kobe. Guys like Dave Anwar was on staff, Paul Reiser, all these guys.
Who is Dave Anwar?
Dave Anwar is presently the coach at Mississippi State University. He went to Abington Friends. He played in the James Fox League. And I've known him since high school. And he's a couple years younger than me, so I got a chance to really get to know him. And he got into coaching through Darryl Schofield. And the doors were open because they had talented kids that nobody wanted to deal with. And that kind of opened up the doors for other kids that got overlooked that went to schools like FLC and smaller high schools, Kensington, and all these smaller high schools to get love and looks. And that's why Darryl Schofield became a legend, because he spent his time helping underrated kids, regardless of what he needed to do to help them. He helped them get to where they had to go and what they had to do.
You were talking about Adidas and the contracts and everything. Who did Sco know deep in Adidas that was running the whole thing or behind the scenes that would be able to be a good influence? Because a lot of people pretend like they know who they're talking about. But if anyone knows a guy named Sonny Vaccaro, Sco had him on speed dial and called somebody once and he answered. So I know that Sco was the real deal. So what was it like dealing with the contract people, being 22 and newly married, right, with a son?
Yeah.
Back then, juggling all that. Do you wish you were older back then?
I wish I was a little bit more knowledgeable and less naive. It was a cutthroat world. Everybody wanted a contract for the USA. Charles Monroe wanted a contract. Me and Darryl Schofield wanted a contract. Honey Park wanted a contract, but people didn't see the vision of white kids playing basketball. It was a black sport. So I was out that picture early. You know what I mean? I was out that picture early. It wasn't no Kobe when we first started. Probably in 93, it wasn't no Kobe. It was actually, like I said, it was the year after Frank Bird had Jason Lawson, Rasheed Wallace. He was...
He had Rasheed Wallace. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, Tennis Young had Rasheed Wallace,
But it was different back then.
AAU had a separate identity. It wasn't club basketball exposing himself. It was like AAU tournament. We're going to Iowa to play in the national championship. You know, it was it's like, you know, most guys would remember Walt Rogers was the suburban guy of Sunny Hill. You know, Walt Rogers was the suburbs dealing with the kids from Chester and Norristown and everywhere else. And he had Billy Owens. You know, he had Billy Owens playing for him. And he asked me to play, and I never had anybody fight over me. You know what I mean? Like, Walt Rogers fought over him and Sunny Hill, and they had beef. And you know, I'm standing, and I'll never forget, I played the Sunny Hill All-Stars when I was in 8th grade. I played the freshman team. And they were arguing over me. Why is Sam Rines playing for the city team? You know, he should be playing for the suburban team. And I got love. I can't be mad at that. But, you know, Sonny Vaccaro was somebody that everybody wanted to know and I heard of because I knew he was at Nike and he left Nike to go to Adidas. So it was kind of like an eye-opening experience to hear about a guy with that kind of power that can give you sneakers and uniforms and money just so you can help kids, because I never heard of that. And I heard of companies doing it, but not an individual that had that kind of power to catapult you up to another level. So when Kobe did play for us, you know, I looked at him like, I can't believe this kid is that good, because he didn't look like he was 14. And he didn't play like he was 14 when I first met him. Like, he had an unbelievable jump shot. He was super athletic. He was long. He was cocky. You know, and our best player at the time was Ray Carroll from Chester. And Ray was a good player. He was super athletic. Could shoot. He was aggressive. But Kobe was at a whole nother level. And now we had to deal with Ray and Kobe and a bunch of suburban kids. But the best part about it, the suburban kids got better playing with those particular guys. And then we got better suburban kids. So once your team starts getting better and you start going to the right tournaments, you get better looks, you get better players. So now we expanded from Montgomery County to Bucks County to Delaware County, and we started getting kids from all over the country. I mean, all over the state.
Yeah.
You know, tri-state area. So we even got kids from Harrisburg, which, you know, helped us out tremendously at times.
Mm-hmm. What was it like dealing with Kobe's ego, especially back then?
Me and Kobe, you know, and I said this in multiple books and interviews, that we bumped heads because I understood what he wanted. So I didn't think it was my job to pacify him or say that you're great without holding him to a higher standard. You know, I was his biggest fan, but I was also, I would say I was the hardest one on him overall, because I didn't like him turning the ball over or working on his game while we were trying to win. So I think if I had to say I gave him something, I would say I gave him the knowledge of winning a game and still being successful by winning. Like, you can't kick the ball off your leg 6 times and win a game. And I remember one instant, he kicked the ball out of bounds because he was working on his crossover. It was the first game of the tournament against, I think, the Boston Buddies, and he kicked the ball out of bounds 6 straight times, and we lost the game. So we have no chance of making the playoffs. So just imagine driving 7 hours and losing a game because somebody wants to work on a crossover. And to me, that's selfish. So I was trying to explain to him, win the game first, and then work on your crossover.
When did you add Richard Hamilton? Because you had Kobe first for a couple of years. Was that after he kicked the ball off his thing? Did you decide I'm going to go get more help?
Well, nah. So he played with us that first year. The next year, what happened from the next year, Richard Hamilton tried out for the Keystone State games, which we controlled. So we had the suburban team of the Keystone State games. And Richard Hamilton tried out. The crazy part is he never came back. So the guy that was coaching cut him. He cut Rich Hamilton, and I said to my father, I said, I don't know how this kid got cut. Like, he said, well, he never came back. I said, now you got to get him back on the team. So they brought him back on the team. He played with us, but he never filled out the paperwork. So he was up in Harrisburg with no paperwork. So he wasn't going to let him play. Pete White decided last minute to let him play, and that's all she wrote because he was really that good. So he played with us in the Keystone State games, and he played with us some AAU tournaments. And whenever the year they talked about Kobe playing with Vince Carter and Tim Thomas, he skipped our tournament to go with them. Rip Hamilton came in and substituted, and we won the championship with Rip Hamilton. And people thought it was Kobe Bryant. That's how good Rip Hamilton was.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So we won the Jim Retch Challenge. It might have been the first or second one. With Rip Hamilton, we beat the Boston.
Who else did you have on that roster? Do you remember, or is that going back too far?
No. Perfect. We had Devin
Wade. Yeah, I remember.
Devin Wade, Rhode Island. Javar Johnson, LaSalle. Jimmy Dillon, Notre Dame. Lucas.
Jason Lucas, Bucknell, Germantown Academy, for anybody you need to know. So Sam Rines has all kinds, even suburban kids.
Nah, he went to Lafayette.
How do you go to Lafayette?
And then Ty and Di Cameron went to Bucknell.
Okay, I knew.
Chad Halpern-Wasser went to NYU. Brad Furman went to NYU. And I'm missing one. Steve Brown went to Campbell.
So there you go, all your Sam Rines alumni. He remembered the entire team. He didn't just remember the stars right there.
Listen, if you have a whole team of guys that go Division I that didn't have any looks prior to, I mean, back then coaches were allowed to talk to you. There wasn't no coaching rules, and so it was different, especially when Kobe played, because your court was surrounded by all these other players. And then when it got tough, we brought in John Linehan because John played against us in the Keystone State games. And John Linehan at the time only had Ursinus in another Division III school. So when I saw him playing the Keystone State games, I said, yo, you're a Division I player from everything I had seen. So I talked to his coach, because my father and Fred Pickett were good friends. And long story short, we picked up John Linehan, and he was the best defender I've ever seen.
It's point guard from Chester, right? That went to Winchendon? And then went to Providence?
Providence. And now he's coaching at BYU.
Oh, okay. Is he? Good for him. Good for him. I remember Johnny. He was really fast. I remember he abused Kobe in that, district championship game in '95 that no one talks about.
He was special. He's a very special defender. He was probably 5'9" with a 6'6" wingspan.
Oh, wow.
So imagine being lightning quick with long arms, and he was special. He wasn't really a shooter, but he didn't have to be because he was such a good player.
Okay. After Kobe, did you find it difficult, and Rip, in the same year, to go from them to starting all over again, or were you able to reload or just grab somebody or figure it out? Is that the Rasul year started?
So they kind of dicked me because they said they were going to sponsor us the next year, and my father didn't want no parts of it. He had enough.
He didn't want any parts. That sounds like your dad. He didn't want any money thing ever. Just in case anyone thinks the Rines don't have a soul. No, Mr. Rines 100% doesn't trust any of you shoe guys.
Yeah, so what happened was me and my father had a falling out because I wanted to continue what was going on, and he wanted to drop out of that and just deal with the local stuff and have his weekends free and everything else. So that's how I started my program.
Okay, so you split from there.
Yeah,
that's how every Sam Rines went their own thing.
I asked my father for some money, and he said no. And I was like, I got to make this a business. So I started my AAU team. That's when I had guys like Craig Moore with the Northwestern. I had Matt Walsh. All those guys came down to my first AAU tryout and played with me their first year.
Okay.
And it was just the springtime. We played in about 8 tournaments, mostly local, and it was an experience. It was good. And then the next year, I had the Carroll brothers move to town, and everything expanded. I picked up Russell Butler, I picked up Chris Krug, and Tim Whitworth and his brother, And
Off to the races again.
Oh yeah, I'm off to the races, and I loaded up, and I was good. I just wasn't deep. And then they sent me uniforms, but they didn't give me no money. I went to the Adidas meeting, which is cool, but they got mad at me because somebody in my camp tried to get Kobe to sign with a different agent. I was wet behind my ear. I didn't know this. And they got mad at me because they thought I was trying to do things differently. When the whole plan was, if you're the sponsored team, you sign with Armtelling and you fuck with Sonny. You don't mess with anybody else. And I didn't know that. I thought, all right, they just want that player to identify with him. But it was a little bit more in depth than what I thought it was.
Coaching people like Rasul and Matt Carroll, doing the research and everything, I was really surprised at their longevity in the NBA and like how they played their roles, and their stats were more consistent than the guys like even Lionel Simmons, who was 8 years. Rasul Butler went 12 and didn't go as high. Do you feel like coaching you brought into a perseverance, and like these guys got drafted late, not much they hung on and they kept fighting? Do you feel like the teaching you and your dad brought in taught them that?
Not all of them, because some of them didn't work out with us at the extent of what they played for. So a guy like Rasul Butler, I was able to convince him that he was a guard, not a forward. And that kind of sparked his longevity because he was a shooter. And when he came out to Vegas, I didn't stick him down low. I put him at the guard spot because I knew he would be more valuable as a guard than a forward. And I did the same thing with the Morris twins. Morris twins were supposed to go to LaSalle as forwards, and they came down to Charlie Weber with me, and I put them as guards. And they're recruiting. That's when they decided to go to prep school and
go to Kansas.
Yeah.
Now they're off and running.
And I don't claim them as my own, because even though they played for me, it's not about somebody playing for you. Because back then everybody shared kids. So that was the whole notion of sharing. Caring is sharing, as they say. But they all thanked me for putting them as guards or allowing them to play a position that scouts and NBA scouts and high-level college scouts could see them as potential NBA players rather than lucky to be in college players. Because I think that's what's hurting this current generation as we speak, because it's more or less the kids are playing out of position, we're playing small ball, we're getting away with it because, there's a million teams out there and everything is watered down. But, sometimes you had to play small ball back in the day. You know what I mean? You were lucky to have a big because all the bigs were taken. You had to go smaller, but smaller was 6'6", 6'7". You know what I mean? Now small is 6'3", 6'4".
Tell me more about sharing. I remember a special story when I was, just in case anyone didn't know, I got the privilege to go from driving people in a van, met Sam up in Connecticut, to working for him and getting a basketball education for 2 years. There's one story, my favorite story, and I heard Sam talk about this. We both were bombarded by a phone call from an NBA, probably future Hall of Famer and current 76er, from 6 o'clock in the morning till about 7:30 when we both woke up to go to a tournament in Scranton to play against no one. Just so, who was that guy?
Kyle Lowry. I mean, Kyle, think about it. Kyle wanted to play for us so bad over a 2 to 3 year span. Since Kyle was in 9th grade, he always wanted to suit up for us. So he would call me up and say, can I play? And he wasn't the best one in the class. He was he was a good player. But he was a guy that played hard, played good defense, and wanted to play. So it's hard for me to say no. So, when I was picking up Dwayne Davis, Kyle calls me up and says, I want to play. Cool, I'll pick you up when I pick up Dwayne. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking that Kyle would ever be that star that we talked about. And, you remember, out in Vegas, he wasn't on my top team. He was on my B team.
He was on your third team.
Yeah.
He was on your third team and back gyms.
And you were the main one, trying to bring coaches out there to look at him and see how he plays, play phenomenal. I only saw him play 2 games out there. because we had 3 teams out there, and all 3 teams had Division I guys. But, you know, when you got a kid that wants to play that bad and he plays that hard and he's consistent at what he does, success is, I mean, I thought he had his coming out party out in Vegas with us. You know, people talked about Kyle before that, but they didn't talk about Kyle like that. Like, he really had his coming out party, and he never looked back after that particular tournament.
I remember the summer of that year seeing Kyle with 4 different uniforms and 4 different weekends. Like, he literally, and one of the second best time I heard him, none of us were in Florida, but he played for a B team for a guy named Chris Russell, the big guy named Jason Kane, and that changed everything.
Yeah.
And now you look around and these guys won't let these kids play for anyone else just to play in a scrimmage. Listen, how sad is that?
I'm still tight with Chris. I'm still tight with Ryan George, Coach Greg. Like, they're all my guys. I tell people the story all the time. Coach Greg was out in Vegas. He didn't have a credit card. So I rented the van for him that particular year out in Vegas. Next year, the same thing happened. I rented the van without hesitation to help him out. And people, you know, he was thankful for that because that allowed his team to stop sitting on the curb for hours on end. Like, we all took the same flight. They were on the curb for 5 hours.
Waiting for you to get off the plane.
No. Just waiting to try to get a van, and he couldn't figure it out. So, you know, if you don't help people, I don't ever see the Morris Twins or anybody else. If you don't, you know, try to help people in the tournaments that you host or try to help them with workouts that you may have, and, you know, you keep the doors open because you never know when you might need somebody. And I didn't call the Twins or Kyle to say, come play for me. They called me because
how easy was that back then? It felt like everyone, like I would get bombarded as like working for Sam Rines and get calls from their coaches about, I hear you're talking to my kid. And I would say, no, your kid legitimately called us and asked. And the first thing we always say is talk to your coach. Well,
think about it. Talent was so rich then with guys like Sharon Fisher,
Rob Kurz
and
Donnell, Richard Cunningham.
Yeah, like the talent was so thick, it didn't matter. Like I was, I'm gonna help you. Come on, you know, I was pulling kids off the street. They called them the day of the tournament for them to play, and they held their own. They were at least Division II or low Division I players. Some were better, some were worse. But, you know, think about it. I spent the summer waiting for Shane Clark, you know, to play for me the next year because I thought I had Shane and Kyle, which I was very content on having. But I let Sean Singletary because I wanted to do what's best for him. And I never forget the story. And this is why I did it. We were going to BET, and I talked to a coach. I'm not going to say his name because he denies it to this very day. But a coach told me that he thought Sean Singletary was a Division II player. And you got to remember, Sean Singletary, age-wise, was younger than Kyle and those guys. So until he repeated the grade, he left Perkioning School to go to Penn Charter, age-wise. So I talked to his mom and dad, and I said, listen, you need to repeat him. You need to get him out of Perk, repeat him in a different school. And they listened. His mom, you know, God rest her soul, she thanked me the day they did it all the way through. She always thanked me. And I was friends with their family because they, you know, when they were young, she was like, he will never play for you. He will never. I said, wow, he's going to play for me eventually. And she took everything back. I mean, I really enjoyed the family because they realized the bigger picture. But you know, my biggest mistake was probably allowing him to go to the players, which I thought was a good choice overall, because he took everybody with him. He took Gerald Henderson, who started with me, with Jimmy. Wayne Ellington was asking to play for me, then he left Doc. The only reason I left Wayne alone because he was with Doc. And he ended up with Jimmy because Doc got sick. Lee Malchione, when Doc got sick, he went to Jimmy. And
See, these Jersey guys, they don't believe they take everything for themselves, huh? Frank, Jimmy, we're calling you out.
Man, they're selfish.
No brotherly love in Jersey, man.
And Eddie Griffin, who's a year behind those guys, but he did the same thing.
That's why they charge you money to get out of that state.
Yeah, so, I lost a lot in that transaction, but that's when I picked up guys like from SCO. I picked up guys from Brother Leon, and they were guys that nobody really heard about, like Marcus Rosser. He ended up going Division I. Shea Peterson ended up going Division I. John Cox ended up going Division I. And they were from schools that nobody really heard of. The University City, John Cox went to
Engineering
ENS.
and Science. Yep. Your cousin, right? Was he your cousin?
He was Kobe's cousin.
Oh, he's Kobe's cousin.
Yeah.
Right.
So the crazy part about John Cox, I was telling somebody he was as good as Matt Carroll, because Matt was toying with the Pittsburgh team and me at the same time, and that was hard because I didn't know what he was going to do in particular weekends. So I had to get another wing that could score. And I remember walking past Henry Bibby saying, "Yo, check out this kid, bro. He's just as good as Matt Carroll." And Henry Bibby was at USC at the time, and he was like, "Yo, I really like him." And John Cox showed out, but he had already decided he was going to San Francisco. But he took us over to Kobe's house and chilled over there. We had some fun on that trip.
Road trips. All right, so Kyle, as we were watching this, and I think you remember this, if I would have told you in 2004 that two of the power brokers in AAU in the city of Philadelphia 10 years later, and actually really 3 years later, would be Lonnie Lowry, Kyle Lowry's brother, who did not have a program, like in 2003?
Yep.
He had like a steady program. He did have a program, but I remember Kyle playing a couple more tournaments with you around that time. And then by 2004, he got the Adidas deal, and he was and Rob Brown was Frank's assistant for a couple years. Would you have thought you were crazy, or did you see them coming up?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know Rob Brown like that. So, I heard of him, but I didn't really know him. And Lonnie has always been a presence. Like, Lonnie has been a presence in Kyle's life since he was 10. When he was in high school, he was vocal and let's go, coaching on the side, and they're a very animated family. And Jimmy gave Lonnie his contract because they didn't want to give it to me. And I'm not mad at Jimmy, but as soon as Jimmy did that, because he had all those guys like Kamal, because Kamal used to work with Lonnie. So they were all trying to work together with Rodney Westcott, and all those guys were trying to get their own little niche, which was cool. But, as soon as Mr. Sam gave the contract out, they all turned on Jimmy.
And each other to a degree.
Yeah, and each other. So the city got very, very selfish. Like, not selfish and like me, I. More selfish as far as this guy plays for me, don't talk to him. You play for one team only. The sharing was over. So, as soon as they gave those contracts out, that stopped sharing, that stopped, everything. And at that time, John Hartnett had his team filtering over from Sunny Hill, letting all his guys play with Jimmy and trying to play in AAU tournaments. And that was probably the downfall of that too, because now where they should have been playing with the 3-on-3 team, which is the St. Hill team, they're playing with Jimmy. So kids had to be loyal to somebody, and it all fell apart because we learned so many tournaments. The tournaments weren't like a tournament every week. The tournaments were Hoop Group, Adidas. That's it. Wasn't no Nike, wasn't no Under Armour, wasn't no New Balance, Puma, wasn't no Zero Gravity, it wasn't anybody else other than those particular guys. And War of the Woods, nobody wanted to play outside anymore.
I got the story. Can I tell the story? Is it all right?
Yeah, tell
The
it.
first time you invited me to go see, I was doing scouting for Sam, and he said, by the way, basketballfinders.com, check it out. I might come in and write some articles. Anyway, He said, yo, you got to come watch Darryl Schofield. There's this guard, Stephon Jackson. He will blow you away. And back then, he was ineligible most of his career. He was still a king. And I went to this game, and there was a pool Marcucci had at this gym. And the ref kept giving the calls to the St. Augustine, and Lutheran kept getting mad. And my first game watching Stephon Jackson, he kicked the ball in the pool. Okay. So, like, in case anyone doesn't understand AAU, it's kind of like a circus. Like, anything can and will, and you leave thinking, I never saw anything like that before. So, the ironic thing about Jimmy was, why did Kyle become a player? There's only one garment, actually, of why Kyle wanted to become a player. Do you remember the garment that everyone used to want to have, that Jimmy had, that no one else had?
No, what's that?
How about those players' jackets? Kyle wanted a jacket. So Kyle played for Jimmy just to get a jacket. Like, it's funny. People wanted to wear the Sam Rines uniform to wear the Sam Rines. They just wanted the jacket for Philly. Kyle played IS-8 for the record. Don't even know if did Kyle ever play a tournament with Jimmy? Maybe one?
I think IS-8, and he played one other tournament in August.
Okay.
But, like I said, everybody, Kyle
everybody
played with
had everybody
Park,
back
he
then.
Played with, his original AAU team split up. What was the initials of the team?
Philly MJC.
MJC, Patriots. The only team he wasn't allowed to play with was Patriots.
Patriots?
Yeah, everybody else, he played Ron George.
He did play with Patriots. He went to Bob Gibbons just to go to Bob Gibbons one year.
Yeah, like Kyle was an opportunist, and he didn't care what line he thought. That's the crazy part. Like he did his own thing, but I give him credit. They stuck together.
They were brothers for all their disagreements. They always made up.
Lonnie wouldn't talk to me, but last thing he would say is, "Yo, take care of my brother." You know what I mean? And I had to respect that because, he still had brotherly love. Like I remember one time in Future Stars, I had Tyreek, and Kyle said he wanted to play last minute. So I brought Kyle in, and Tyreek was fine. Tyreek liked to play with the ball. And I remember Lonnie coming up to me.
I'm so mad. He wouldn't talk to me either. I remember this.
He came up to me at halftime and was like, "Yo, man, you gonna keep letting him play like that, man? That's crazy. Yo, that's crazy. If it was up to me, he would never fucking play." And da-da-da-da-da. He was going crazy. But then on the flip side of that, I had Dr. Luber like, he's right. Because I worked out the Luber brothers all the time. And Ben didn't like playing with Tyreek. And he was like, you know what? I can't play with him.
How did Reek come about? What was that? It seemed like Kyle went with his own thing, and everybody, we're going to joke about this many times. Sam Rines, quote this again. Sam Rines is done. I just told Sam before we started this interview, there are 3 things constant in life: death, taxes, and Sam Rines in basketball. How did Tyreek come about? What was that like? Let's talk about just the beginning of meeting Tyreek. Do you remember the first interaction?
It came from you. I mean, think about it. You introduced me to Tyreek and his brother. We came to a tournament that I was running late.
A flip-flop. I almost wore flip-flops today.
Yeah. So, I was running late.
Reggie coached the game. For anyone who knows Sam Rines, he coached the first 5 minutes. They were up.
Salvation Army. Down on the Broad and Brown, Salvation Army. And they were saying how good he was. And I got there at halftime, and he was lighting that shit up, shooting from half court. And I'd never seen a young kid play the way he played at such a young age, not even Kobe. And there was an appreciation by the city guys that allowed him to play the way he played once they saw him for the first time. And then it was like, yo, this Tyreek Evans guy, and he was in 6th grade. It wasn't like he was in 7th or 8th. He was in
you're right.
6th grade.
Do you remember who you played?
No, I don't remember who we played. I think it was Tyndale Street.
This Lonnie Lowry calls me up at halftime cursing me out because it was against them, and he was killing up. He said, why do you always help out Sam? I said, that's my guy.
Yeah, he was special. And, he played with me off and on for the next 2 to 3 years. In AAU, he came on full-time in 9th grade. And
after winning a national championship and being the number one guy. And I remember wondering if we would ever get him back after winning that. You said, all we're going to do is we're going to give him the option of whenever you play your age, you play your age. But if we want to play up, you should play up.
Yeah.
And within a month, it was over.
He played up all the time. He was featured. Had him in the junior uniform. And, I remember at the Hoop Group tournament against what's TJ's team?
New England players?
New England players.
They had guys older than you. I love you, Teach.
Tyreek was in 9th grade. He put on a show. And everybody was like, yo, how good is this kid going to be? And everything was appreciated. Like, he played in probably 4 other tournaments that spring and going into the summer, and maybe 3, 4. And the last tournament we put him in was Vegas. And what I try to explain to people, they offered him a deal after Virginia. So we go down Southern Invitational. He didn't play as well against OJ as he wanted to, but that's when I realized it's going to be conflict. So I was like, all right, I'll just deal with this. So we go out Vegas, and Reggie telling me about team final and what Nike going to do. He's telling me my role in this whole thing, and I'm like, well, we got to change the name. That was the first flag. I'm like, why would I change the name of the team to be something? And I was like, why is this guy telling me, like, I'm not talking to Nike if they're going to sponsor the team? So it's kind of like I'm dealing with a middleman. I didn't get offended because I didn't have time to really
process everything. It kind of got hit you. You had to also manage 3 teams or whatever in 3 different age groups.
So he orders uniforms, and he's telling me how he's going to lead the AAU team and all the kids he's going to bring with him. So there's conflict there, and so I'm trying to avoid all conflict. So I get out to Vegas, and they say, "Oh, I brought the team final uniforms. Can we wear them? Can we wear them? Can we wear them?" Yeah, we can wear them. You know what I mean? Because it didn't mean anything, because it was still listed under Sam Rines. And, then he was like, second game, he's like, Nike want to talk to you. It was before the second game. Nike want to have a meeting with us about Tyreek, blah, 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 And then at the meeting, I'm sitting there listening. They're saying the name change, and they're not telling me what my role is. And so I was like, listen, y'all can have all this. Because at the end of the day, I was tired of AAU because I was spending more money than what I was bringing in just trying to win. Because I was still making a ton of money, but I was spending more money than I was bringing in. So I didn't think it was worth it for me to...
So this seemed like to almost be the last ride. Like when Reek came around, you knew when Reek's done for AAU, I'm going to do something different.
With good basketball, yeah. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't worth me spending $10,000 to go out to Vegas and then nobody paying other than me. I'm buying meals, I'm buying hotels, I'm airfare, and it was tough because Nike came in and said, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and Reggie's gonna be in charge of this, in charge of that. I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. And the way I looked at it, team finals first team was my last team. So I walked away from it, allowing them to take good players and to have some success. And they made it to what? The Elite 8 out in Vegas.
I think they did. I think they only lost about that. And then the next year they went to, they were known as Team Final Four. They never won anything, but they went to all the Final Fours when Reek was a sophomore.
Yeah.
And watching Reek at that time, where the LeBron comparisons were like ridiculous, only unfairly even. Like if he doesn't match LeBron, whoever's going to be managing that is going to be considered a failure. Were you glad to kind of hand that over because you had gotten Reek to the point where Kobe was? There was nowhere else to go.
I basically walked away from the meeting telling them it will never work because y'all don't know the real Tyreek. And they were like, what are you saying? He's not that good? I said, no, he's very good. You just got to be careful who you surrounded with. because they're going to steal his thunder. Like, there's no way you can allow one player to come down and score the ball every single time down the court without moving and playing without the ball. And I told them that, and they got upset because, you know, they were trying to figure it out. But Vince Baldwin calls me up the next year after they get all these kids from Jersey and St. Pat's.
The Rob Brown came on board and brought all the New
So
Jersey All-Star guys.
Yep. So he says to me, "We're not winning. How can we make it better?" I said, "You got to surround them by the Chester guys. You can't surround them by
Jeff Robinson, Matthew Bryan and Manning, Papa D, all of them.
Exactly. You can't surround them by because they're too selfish." I said, "Tyreek needs to be in a situation that he can manipulate, not people manipulate him." And they took all the Chester guys. They brought
Karan, they brought Karan and Oz. Actually, all the other guys quit the next year, and they brought Karan back because they cut him. Yeah. And then they won Super Showcase.
Yep.
And Reek was once again the number one player in the country and had a great NBA career.
But that came from the advice of Sam Rines.
Oh, see a little underneath those things. You're welcome, Reg.
Baldwin offered me to take over Miami because I saw him at a club. And he was like, you know, I'll give you Miami. You can read the prep school down here. You can do the AAU prep. Then the guy from the Lightning went down and did it because I didn't want to do it. So I give Vince love and credit because he tried to make it better. But, you know, he knew I wasn't happy about how the whole thing went down. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They tried to say it was an internal thing with me and Brahim, but, you know, it still wasn't the way. Like, it was the way it was presented and everything else. And I wasn't mad because I was losing money. So, you know, it wasn't like Nike was saying, I'm going to give you money. They were talking about just giving me product. They wasn't saying what the deal was going to be. And I think if I knew it was going to be an EYBL and everything else, I would have looked at it differently. Because that's what changed everything. Mm-hmm. Not
the EYBL changed everything.
Yeah, think about it. I go to Vegas, I charge everybody $600. I'm walking out of Vegas happy, making money, eating, and everything else. I go to Vegas and I don't charge you shit. And I'm losing money, $6,000. I'm not happy. I can't go out.
Why should someone pay Sam Rines to play so they can play for you? What can Sam Rines bring to the table that other coaches can't?
I always had a team in the top divisions. So, you know, through relationships, through early travel, through everything else, I've always had a team in the top division. So when people look out for you, they know you're going to bring a good product. So my teams were always good enough to have a team in the top division. I always had 2 or 3 good players. Never 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But back in the day when I had those guys, I had 8, 9 good players on every team. Like one of my teams out in Vegas was Sean Singletary and
Rob Kerr's, the young Buck team.
Yeah, like they were good. Like they were solid. They got along. Then I had a team with Stephon Jackson, Deontay Christmas, Mark Kilgore. Like I had 9 Division I players on each team.
They all played.
And they all played. Matt Nunn was going Division III. That's the only other kid I had. But the amount of money that I made was zero. I lost money. So all the money I made during the season at other tournaments, I lost. So I only had Matt Nunn, Mike Rhodes, and other guys that were playing along with Sco's guys. And I was taking a loss on everything. Even though I put them in cheaper hotels and 4 in a room, whatever it was, I was still taking losses. So the only thing they had to do was cover their airfare, some of them, and then some of them went for free. So, when you look at the whole scenario of what AAU really is, you got to ask yourself, was it ever worth it? The only reason it was worth it was because I had 2 teams in the top division where I put them in 2 different tournaments to make sure I had 2 teams in each division in the top. And then I had a team that had to make it into the top. And we were always good enough to have all 3 teams make it. Like one of my teams with Chevy Troutman and Torrance.
Who's Torrance?
Torrance was probably one of the best prospects to ever play for me, but What's his last name?
Johnson.
Torrance Johnson. He's 6'9". He was my first 6'9" guard that ever played for me, and he had all the talent in the world. And you know where I got him from? Starkey.
Tim Starkey.
Yeah. So, that's when, sharing was caring. When I knew Starkey wasn't going to go out to Vegas, I picked up Chevy Troutman from Starkey. I picked up John Allen from Starkey. I picked up Johnson from Starkey. I picked up the kid from Harrisburg from Starkey. And then I added them with my guys and had two real good teams with Dave Brooks, Jay Joseph, Pat Carroll, Dave Luber, Ted Scooches. I mean, think about it. That's already 11 Division I players. And out of that whole group, I think that we ended up with 14 Division I players on two teams.
That's very impressive. That doesn't happen now. Do you think the talent, for as much exposure and as much everything else, is deeper now, or was better back then? Just social media and recruiting wasn't the way it is.
Better back then. And coaches understood what a young player would bring to the table. Now all of a sudden you got to be super big, super strong for your position. You got to be older. You got to be, willing to, like now, you got to be ready to play right away. Back then they would allow you to red shirt if you weren't strong enough. They would give you a role. Like now the coaching is different. So guys like David Luber, who was good, just wasn't strong enough. He couldn't play today. But back then he was good enough, skilled enough to play. So regardless if he got a package scholarship with Torrance Johnson, he was still good enough to play. So he played as a freshman where I didn't think he would play or be ready to play as a freshman. Now, all of a sudden, you look at a 6'8" Jackson Gaffney who's strong and athletic. We're sending his shit out every week to try to find a school.
Break down Jackson Gaffney, his career. Explain to him. Again, we gave him a shout out in the beginning. Going to University of San Diego. So it means he'll play Gonzaga next year, correct?
Yep.
So he will play them.
So he's in the Mountain West, and his situation was unique. So he came to me the fall of his senior year, and he said, "I'm at Radnor. I might be looking at prep school. We're just checking out some prep schools." So I got a chance to meet him early, and we're talking, and I'm watching him. He didn't start, and he says to me, he asked me a question. He says, "How do you see me?" I don't fucking know. I'm not really watching Radnor play. Like, I'm just saying you're 6'8" and you can shoot, so you got to be a Division I player. So I'm going to get you stronger. I'm going to get you playing better. I'm going to get you dribbling better. I'm going to get you playing the right way. And you're athletic. So once I saw him play, I was like, oh, you got a chance to steal like maybe a Delaware or a Drexel or something like that, maybe a little bit lower. Maybe as a small forward, power forward. Then, once he came, he transitioned into a guard once he was here. So once you make that transition from a wing or power forward to a guard, that makes you more valuable. That's the Russell Butler thing. And we're good at that. We're good at allowing shooters to shoot and play their game. I think we did that for Pat Carroll, because he lived in the shadow of Matt, where he wasn't as good a ball handler, but we allowed him a position where all he had to do was stand still and shoot. Same with Brian Nowitzki. He went to Northern Florida. All he had to do was stand still and shoot. Oh, he went to Jacksonville. Yeah. So, when you got guys that play a certain role, if you can allow them to play their role, they will have some success.
For anybody who doesn't know about Rock Top, where is that, and what do you offer, and what is the purpose of a Rock Top? Because it's not a prep school per se, right? Most of these kids are automatically qualified already, and their grades are pretty solid.
Well, Rock Top is a traditional basketball academy. I started based on IMG doing the same thing. So IMG had sports only. Obviously they had multiple sports, but they had a gym, they had sports. They put the kids in the gym, they practice, they play. That was my philosophy when I first started, because I didn't want to deal with the school part of it. as time went on, I was able to add a school component to it where I could take high school kids, but I'd rather not do the online school. Once COVID hit, everybody was doing online school.
And they still want to do it right now, especially with the transgender stuff going on and everything else right now.
Mass shootings, transgender, just the waste of time that you're doing in school. It's like babysitting. Like you sit in school all day and you might have 2 hours worth of schoolwork. The whole time you're there, you're being taught 2 hours. So the philosophy of playing basketball for 4 hours and going to school for 2 has changed the mindset of basketball. So you have a kid, and I said this the other day, even on Facebook, we practice twice as much as any high school team. We play 2 to 3 times as many games, and we play against better teams. Regardless if you're in the Catholic League or the Friends League or the Interact, whatever league you're in, we're still playing better teams. We're still playing more games. We're still playing, and we still play you preseason. So it's a no-brainer if you can afford to come to prep school to go to prep school. It's just, when I compare myself to, let's say, Hill, Phelps, Perk, their goal is still to win. My goal is not to win. My goal is to develop.
So your goal is the kids.
Yes.
As always, you feel like. How do you feel that people say, when you look at your resume and kids that when you got them from one product to when they left, he's all about the money and not even know you? And why would they say that? When you compare like a hoop group that's $1,000 a tournament for everyone to go to all these tournaments and these leagues where you pay about $300 a hotel a night and you waste all this money in gas, as you can see the gas prices right now. Whereas you can go to an open gym for Sam Rines and play for Rock Academy and you can play Division I. I'm going to name you another name that Jackson Gaffney will now be a teammate of, who played 10 times more and scored 10 times 100% more points. How about Deuce Turner and Jackson Gaffney are now going to be teammates on the University of St. Oh, he transferred? Is the portal not crazy? Is the portal not? But think about that. That's crazy, though, isn't it? Yeah. Deuce Turner scored 2,000 points, played 1 million AAU games. Jackson Gaffney couldn't get off the bench for either high school or AAU, and they're playing both Division I.
Jackson might actually be more valuable, but think about it. Anytime you have white kids that play on a team, people think you're making a ton of money. I mean, it's just the notion. They don't understand that some of the other teams beg for money, and they get money from corporations and other people. They might have just as much money to work with, as opposed to asking the parents or the kids for money, or they might be doing both. I mean, now when you really look at it, black kids that live in the suburbs are paying just as much as anybody else. So, when I saw the Power and King of Prussia charging like $5,000, I would have never got the $5,000. When I saw Kelly Boris with the Renegades charging $2,000, people looked at it like it was crazy. But if you look at the cost of AAU teams and you do a real budget of what an AAU team is, you don't have a choice but to charge.
My friend did a team for 2 weekends last year. It cost him $10,000 to get uniforms. He did it all because he was just overexcitable, and he booked the hotels and didn't ask them. He just assumed, because some people, I'm not saying I'll probably erase this one later, he just assumed black kids couldn't pay. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Whereas sometimes they can pay. You know what I mean? And their parents will pay.
And sometimes if
coaches are there, the parents will pay.
Yeah, so when you look at a big tournament like a hoop group tournament, it might be $700-800. So you look at a hoop group tournament, $800, then you do hotels, they're $200-300. You do vans, they're $1,000, $2,000, depending on what kind of van you have. It's hard. Like and I don't explain to people that think that, like, people that know the business know I'm not charging money. But people that don't know the business or haters, they're always going to think.
Why do you have so many haters?
Because I have that much success. So when you're spitting out 7, 8, 9 Division I players per year, like one year I had 27 because of Sco and Brother Leon, 27 Division I players in 1 year. Thank God it wasn't social media at that time, because if all those little pictures and everything went on the banner of, Joel Green, he didn't even start for Newman, got a scholarship to Siena because he went out to Vegas with us.
Do you feel like we never let these kids just be kids? There's a great 3 stripes game that I remember, beating Sean Livingston with Kyle Sharon, Bobby Jordan, who's at Temple now, Zachy Boyd, and Joel Green. Maybe Charlie Bronson was there, but I don't think he was, or whatever. I think he got hurt or something. Played Robert Swift, who went on to the Sonics, beat Sean Livingston, who went on to the NBA, and then beat Connecticut Select, who has some good players. And at the very end, that was only Saturday, Sam Rines looks at everybody and goes, "We're going home. We won all 3 games, made our point. I'm not paying their extra." Are these tournaments struggling? Could we literally, are any coaches paying attention on Sunday? Could we literally just go back to giving the Lord his day, and play the games till Saturday?
Well, if you really think about it, everybody's playing too much. Everybody's playing too many games every weekend. You look at the $5,000 a weekend thing. And don't get me wrong, certain people can afford it, but like when you're taking all inner city kids somewhere, and I went to 3 stripes at one time, the more I thought about it, why would I pay $1,000 for the hotel? It would have cost me another $1,500 to $2,000 to stay another day. And for what? We won our own games. We're undefeated. No coaches were there. And it was a dead period. So, if
we made our point and we left.
If it was coaches there, it would have been something different. But now they're trying to get you to come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to Spooky Nooks, which is no hotels within 5 miles, 10 miles of the place. So if you don't book a year in advance, you don't even get a hotel at the facility or near the facility. You got to drive back and forth. Listen, I tell these kids, get the best out of what you can do and move on. We did the same thing with Vegas and California and some of the places we went to this year with Tamar. Get in, get out. We flew in on a Wednesday, camp was Thursday, we flew back Thursday night. Because once you start wasting time and wasting money and trying to deal with the bullshit politics of what things cost and what you have to do, it's no fun to me because I'm the one paying the bill. So I'm robbing for Peter to get the pawn. So you could say, and the black kids in the city, they can never say I charge you. I might charge them airfare just to cover the main thing or the most important thing, but other than airfare, nobody ever paid more than airfare unless they had it. You know what I mean? So if you go back in history, Sharon Fisher never gave me shit. Devin White never gave me shit. Kyle Levin never gave me shit. Like nobody never gave me shit. And to be honest with you, I don't ask them for shit either.
Do you think basketball, and I was just thinking about this, is down all over because you're now doing the prep school and Sam Rines isn't building up players for people to steal in the end? Because that used to be, saw a lot of kids a couple years in a row go from Sam Rines to not only just team final, but K-Lo. And what was it? Robbie Kiefer came from K-Lo, right? From Sam Rines. Rob Kurz came from Sam Rines. Kyle Lowry came from Sam Rines. Tyreek Evans came from Sam Rines. Do you think the reason why the city, or do you just think it's so much, like you said, so many games, that's why these kids are quitting? There's never a point where the kids just get a break from the coaches and the coaches get a break from the kids.
Well, think about it. Who made Tyreek? Tyreek stopped working with Pooh. So when you put other things in front of what got you there, that's the problem. Like this whole generation is, I'll practice up until 6th or 7th grade, and then whatever I am at 6th or 7th grade is what I'm in high school.
Meanwhile, Damian Lillard is practicing like all hours of the day. Yeah. Kyle Lowry is playing at midnight, breaking into, not saying like with a key, by the way, going in and playing till like 2 in the morning.
Yeah, like where's the practicing? Where's the dedication? Where's the 1,000 jump shots? Like, that's why I believe Tamar Brown is going to be good, because he's spending the time. Like, we retired from AAU because we didn't want to deal with the shenanigans that come along with it. I don't need him to do TikTok dances and all kinds of bullshit, just trying to be a part of a team when he has individual things he got to work on. And I think the focus is lost because I'm seeing these guys, like I look at this WRE thing come into play, and I just look at this whole thing as a loss because it's not serious basketball. We can blame the Rucker, we can blame Jelly Fan, we can blame. It's always been around. M1, it's always been around. But when you make it part of the mainstream, that's the problem. You keep that bad basketball separate from the good basketball. So the basketball guys are not stepping up to train or to work out, or they're charging an arm and a leg. So, and if you see some of the training that's going on, they're working on the Jelly Fan at the street ball stuff. So they're not working on the skill stuff, the real skill stuff that makes you good. Rob Kurz had to shoot 400 or 500 shots a day in order to be Rob Kurz. Ben Luber had to shoot 400, 500 shots a day to be Ben Luber.
Who are these guys? Just describe them to you. These aren't the 5-star guys when they first started. Where I remember Rob Kurz couldn't get off the bench at one point at Germantown Academy. Where did he come from after that?
Rob Kurz is kid Bluebell. He ended up growing to 6'10", 6'11". He ended up getting good, but he maturity-wise, his frame was small. He's not a strong kid, but he was a highly skilled kid. And people don't treat big guys right. Like they don't give him time to be them. So where he was a wing or a mobile 4, he wanted to be a guard at whatever. And he couldn't break the lineup at Germantown Academy because they had guys like Lee Balcione and Mike, what's his name?
Matt Walsh.
Yeah, Matt Walsh.
Mike Slattery.
Yeah, Mike Slattery. Yeah, so you had guys that, Matt Walsh didn't even start. He played JV as a junior. So that should tell you that, certain schools are just loaded with talent. Like, you may not fit into that system. And, I had to convince his father, who lived right up the street, like, you might have to look for a different system. So, we convinced him to go to Penn Charter to repeat the grade and, everything else to help benefit him. And I think my advice was probably the best thing I could give to a lot of kids, especially in the suburbs, trying to go places, because without advice, you don't know what to do because nobody's there helping you. Now, all of a sudden, you got a lot of non-basketball people helping good basketball players that don't have the knowledge or the experience to really help somebody.
How crazy is Lamont has 4 NBA championships? Dude, right? We love you, Lamont.
Yeah, right, Lamont, right place at the right time. You got to give him credit. He was consistent at what he did all throughout the time that Tyreek was coming through.
Nobody did more from a yoga stretch, I swear to God, than him. And he's NBA champion four times.
Right place, right time, right system. He rubbed elbows and did everything he had to do to get where he had to go. And, it's crazy you say Lamont because he was just brought up by somebody else the other day out in Vegas. You know how you see somebody like, I know this guy, I don't know where I know him from. Like, what the fuck? That's Lamont.
The first time I saw Lamont, he was sleeping in the lobby of the hotel when I was my first year of coaching team final. I almost tripped over him. I thought he was homeless. I almost put $1 in his pocket. Now that guy, he could put some money in my pocket for sure.
Yeah,
but hey, he was always a nice guy.
Once you latch on, you latch on. You're just being at the right place at the right time. I tell coaches, I tell players, I tell anybody that's looking to go anywhere they got to go, you put yourself in that situation. That's what he did,
You remember when Reggie used to think of Lamont before?
Oh, he hated him.
And then he became his guy.
Because Lamont was favoring Anthony King.
Anthony King, right?
Yeah,
and those of you who don't know, middle school phenom, probably one of the most hyped, let's be honest, 15-year-old sixth graders in the country.
Yeah.
Love you, King. By the way, where was he? Team final. He went to team final at the end when they won Super Showcase. They literally, to quote Sam Rines, as he said, he gave advice. When Reek was in 5th grade, it was Anthony King, Nazir Robinson, Karan Burton, and Tyreek Evans.
Yep.
They went all the way around, bounced all over the place, went to shoe companies. In the end, they won the Super Showcase. Tyreek Evans, Karan Burton, Nazir Robinson. Anthony King. It ain't science.
I try to tell guys, you got to surround yourself by guys you're familiar with, and you got to put the team above the individuals. You can't put the individuals above the team if you're focused on team. If you're focused on individuals, then you can't worry about winning. And I think that's where everybody goes wrong. I think even with this particular age group here, I looked at, we talked about team final the other day, and the kid Nas. So Nas the final to go to Rio. Okay. But why? And you got promised that you're going to start and everything else. Like, that promise should have never been there. But meanwhile, you got tomorrow who's being looked at by NBA scouts and everybody else. And, so it was the best thing that ever happened to us individually. Team-wise, no. Individually, yes. So the experience would have been better if I stayed at final. But the basketball wasn't where I thought it would best benefit tomorrow. So I wasn't mad at final. I wasn't mad at the players. I wasn't mad at anybody. I just knew it was a decision I had to make in order to put him in the best situation for him. But you have some people that's just happy to get sneakers or happy. That's where I think the sneakers company came in and destroyed AAU, because they made people think you got to be on a circuit, or you got to get sneakers, or you got to, like somebody asked me, you want to join the Puma circuit?
Oh, was it Tim Thomas? Was he trying to recruit you? Because he's got his guys on there.
I don't wear Puma. I don't wear New Balance. I don't wear that stuff. I don't even wear Adidas. I have no desire to join the circuit or even on my own team. We got Nike uniforms. I like Nike. I like this. I think there's stuff. I think a lot of people got quality stuff. I respect everything that everybody does. But unless you're giving me money and it's a true business deal, then there's everything's the same. Just, what can you give me? What do you want to give the kids? What are they allowed to do? I don't want to be exclusive to anybody if you're only giving me a product.
Do you feel like your intelligence and ability to... I hope I'm not taking up too much of your time. This was fun. This is fun. It's going along. You know how we get. This has been years.
That's good.
It's just like, in case you don't know how close we are, tell them the big story. How close are we? Riding the bus.
Hey, Murph is my guy. I had Murph riding the bus. I had Murph doing other things for me. He worked with me at my house every day.
I was there his daughter's first day getting on the bus to school for kindergarten. That's my
first
story.
Day, 12 o'clock.
Even though he called me Mike the first 2 times he met me. It's a thing. Oh, no. And the story of when he recruited me, we won't talk about that one either, where we were. But I'm telling you, one of the guys, you want to pick his brain. What advice or positive things? You want to keep it a little positive, too. Breaking down the 4 big programs and then the up-and-comers right now. What's a positive thing about someone looking at a team final?
Well, it's all positive because they're sitting at the top of the hill. So, when you got a program that sits at the top of the hill, and a lot of coaches like final. Like, it's not like they don't, oh, no, you got to do this, no. Like, they like final. They just think final's down. But it's not final's fault. It's just the talent that's out there, and you water down, everything's watered down. So it's not any fault of, Team Final or Philly Pride or Jersey Scholars or anybody. Kalo. So those are the 4 top.
What are some positives Kalo brings to the thing?
I mean, Kalo, to me, the way I look at them, they're more city-based. Kalo's more city-based. Pride is city/suburbs-based. And Final is kind of all over based, same with Scholars, more Jersey/all over based. So when you got a bigger audience, you're going to have a better team. Like We Are One is developing a good audience. And they're inclusive. They have other teams and they do well. Good coaches. So, most of these programs have very good coaches.
There were one guy's just got a big contract, Derek Jones Jr.
Yep.
Finally.
Yep, and listen,
he took the long road.
If you're producing every year, like, one thing you got to say about Final, they got guys they produce. Say what you want. You can say, oh, they were already there. They were this. They still play for Final. So at the end of the day, Final gets that nod as being, quote unquote, the top dog of all the programs, and everybody else is to follow. But Pride held his own. Kalo obviously held his own. That's why I never denied Kyle playing with Lonnie, because Kyle's always played. Might not have been called Kalo.
Oh, every name it could be.
Yeah, right? But, MJC and Patriots and
Team Philly.
It was always there either at that time or a year after. I was the first Team Philly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You were. That's why he held off for a little bit. He thought you'd forget about that. We on you, Lonnie.
It's all love. You know what I mean? And honestly, it helps build the legacy of Team Philly. And if I had to give that to Lonnie over and over again, I would, because it's not about me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to call it Sam Rines 2, Sam Rines 3, Sam Rines 4. I want to call it Team Philly to give a different identity to somebody else. And the problem is, I thought Brother Leon would take over Team Philly, or somebody else would step up and take over Team Philly. And it just didn't happen at that time. Let's go. The problem is I'm stuck paying the bills.
Do you feel like people shot themselves in the foot a couple of times?
Nah, because they tried. Like, now you just got a generation of non-basketball people running programs. So, and that's okay, because they learned on the fly. So if you learn on the fly, learn by watching somebody else, or learn by being around another team, or growing up. Like, say what you want, the Patriots were probably one of the best young programs ever to come out of
For sure. Sean Singletary, Kyle Lowry, Rob Kurz.
If Lonnie...
Rob Kurz actually wasn't. I want to put an asterisk on that. That was James Fox.
But if think about it. If Lonnie was around Zelensky like that, obviously he learned a lot from Zelensky and the MJC guy. And that's how you learn. So you learn to run a program by watching other people. And I'm not mad at Lonnie for ever getting a contract. I think Lonnie did a great job, overall. Spitting out players. He might not have spit out a lot of high Division I players, but he spit out Division I players. And they played in college.
Probably like 70.
And their success,
20 years this year.
It's a lot of success. So, if you can stay in the game for 20 years and you got coaches, that play
in a city like this, too. You've seen them come and go.
Yeah. And same with, I see Pride doing their thing, and I even see the Power doing their thing.
Talk about the Power. Last year, there was a friend of ours where it took them to another level where I felt like they heard them all the time. This year, not as much. What is the Power like? What do they offer?
Well, the Power is the new Renegades. You know what I mean? Like, Renegades, they dominated for a while. Power took over, for a while. And I heard they're losing their gym in February. So.
Ooh, for real?
Yeah. So.
Will they move over to O'Hara with Ryan going to O'Hara, you think? That'll be more O'Hara base. Or do you think Ryan will shut shop and just try and go everything O'Hara?
It's hard because, Gymtown is hard everywhere. But they still got, there's still a ton of gyms around here. It's just, when you lose competitive edge.
That's a big one. That's a free thing. That brings everybody.
That shit is $100,000,
What happened with that? Are they closing
it? I saw it on, because, I'm looking for a new gym for Rock Top.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the 6-man, and somebody said, "Oh, competitive edge." I said, "Well, how much is it?" $15,000 a month. $15,000 a month. So think about it. They're losing money with other people hosting tournaments. So here comes Spooky Nuts, they take money out their pocket. And here come the 6-man, they're taking money out their pocket. Now all of a sudden it's just a normal gym. But, like I said, it's money in bad basketball. It's just by this traffic being so bad up here.
It is crazy. It took me a long time from getting out of God's country. I'm in Oxford.
Yeah.
What about, you talked about the Power, what about Philly Revolution? PA Hoop Academy had a great year this year. What do those guys bring? Do you know them that well? That's Jason Fisher up at PA Hoop Academy, and then John Mosco's assistant runs the Revolution. Do you think there's just too many teams all stealing the same kids?
Nah, I think it's just, like I said, it's the watered down market. So that market is hurting guys like Pride and Adidas and probably even Final, where they might have one or two guys able to be on those particular teams. But, you look at the bench guys, the question is, people are getting smarter saying, I'd rather start at the
on Power or a Revolution or somewhere else.
Yeah, then sit the bench on Final or Pride or
Lonnie
Adidas.
or
Yeah, so when they realize that they're in the same events and the same people watching, it's only going to get harder because with the new NIL and the portal and the way everything is going, it's going to be harder and harder for kids to get scholarships. So they don't have a choice but to try to get in the hoop group top circuit or maybe hoops top circuit. Like, you're better off if you're a low Division I player playing in those kind of circuits than you are even in Peach Jam or everything else. Because Peach Jam, say what you want. The bottom teams of Peach Jam look no different than the top teams of Hoop Group. So it's, matter of fact, I would probably go with the top teams of Hoop Group that made hoops over some of the teams that I saw in Peach Jam. I've been watching games for the last...
You've been watching them. You're a basketball junkie. What is that like to have conversations with people who run programs that aren't the basketball junkie that you are or your father is?
I'm just a listener, Murph. I don't disagree with people. I don't try to convince people to think like I think. Like, I let them have their opinion and let them roll how they roll. Because at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to it. Everybody feels the way they feel. Everybody thinks they're helping. And I don't discourage. I just tell parents just to be smarter. I got a lot of kids this year locally that's going to other prep schools, other places. They know nothing about the prep schools. So chances are they probably or definitely will not get scholarships going where they're going. I don't say anything because they made their choice. And I like the people that run the other prep schools. But my job is not to shit on people. My job is to say, make sure you think about it before you go, because now you pay 3 times as much as if you were coming to Rocktown. So you pay 3 times the amount of money, and you're going to a program that plays less games and you practice less. And you're probably going to be in a B team because all they care about is winning. So what do you say in that case? You can't say anything to prevent a kid from doing what he thinks is best for him. Let him make the mistake. They'll either come back or they'll need my help eventually. Now I make the decision on whether or not I'm going to help him. I saw a kid, Chase Coleman. He was supposed to come to us last year. He goes to a school in Florida. They don't graduate him. You can't get out of the system because he didn't get a diploma. So now he wants to go back to prep school and do another 6 years. When you got bad advice from whoever told you not to come to me, and you never even had to play a game for me. All you had to do was come and work out, and I would have still helped you regardless. I gave you a blueprint. And what do? You don't get mad, and you don't lose sleep over that kind of stuff, because guards are a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? Maybe if it's a big guy, maybe you would care, but big guys are a dime a dozen. Wings are a dime a dozen. A team is a dime a dozen. Nobody's going to get mad if somebody doesn't want to do something. Think about it.
At the end of the day, are you a businessman, a teacher, or a coach? Or all three?
I'm all three. I think I'm a bad businessman because
I wouldn't disagree with that as being one of your closest friends.
I could have made a lot more money if I was more selfish. But, by helping people, I spend more money helping people than I have. I didn't charge for a workout in 5 years.
Really? That used to be the moneymaker.
Yeah, I haven't charged for a workout in 5 years because the prep school made enough money for me to help other kids. My last camp was 3 years ago, and I charged $50 for shooting camp, and they went to the gym for 5 hours a day. Think about it, 20 hours a week shooting, and I charged a minimal amount of money that guys would pay in one workout rather than charge them for a camp. But that's me. People call me up, can my son work out with you? I'm on vacation. I'm chilling. I'm glad I don't have the gym right now. You know what I mean? But I worked out 2 kids at LA Fitness. You know what I mean? I got tired of paying the gym and paying for the workers and not getting paid. So it kind of works out. You know what I mean? Where people have to come to me. And I get calls from all over the world. It's not like I think if people see what I do, I pay the people I like workouts. I like guys that know how to work people out. The guy Seth from Cairn University, Bernard Blunt, Wild Ben. There's guys that can do workouts, but as long as they do specifically what I need them to do for that specific player or team or players, I'm cool with it. I'm cool letting them do what they got to do. If I think something is a waste of time, let's eliminate that. We don't need that. But, the whole goal is to make a kid better. But if they look at what's going on in college basketball, they want you to get bigger and stronger. That's what you should be working on. You should be working on you damn near better be a weightlifter doing the LA Fitness every day than being a basketball player, because they care nothing about skill, man. Everything is how big, how strong you are. And you can't rush maturity. So, when you can't rush maturity, where you got to go? Prep school.
Yeah, that's right, you do.
You know what I mean? 1 year older, lift some weights, get better, talk about your diet, play a lot of basketball, work on your skills, and that's what prep school becomes valuable. You know what I mean?
How crazy is it that you have these kids that are given shoes from the time that they're third grade, and then you have a guy like Derek White, who coming out of high school was recruited. The only offer he had at one point was from a culinary school, and just luckily that coach got a job at a Division III school, and event now is an NBA champion for the Boston Celtics and suiting up for Team USA. There's no way to play this game, is there? Life is so unpredictable.
Well, unless it's nepotism, now is everybody realize how many mistakes they made trying to promote kids from very young to very old. It doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And the scouts talk about it, the NBA guys talk about it, everybody's talking, college coaches. Just because you're good in 7th grade don't mean you're good in 12th grade. But yet, the philosophy is...
I love you, Jawan Carter.
But think about it, the philosophy now is go to middle school hoops, go to maid hoops, go to all these different camps while you're young, and I'm guilty of it too, because I just put out a top 100 and
of 7th grade.
Oh man, I'm getting half the calls I'm getting today is because of that list I put out, because people want to be higher, they want to get on there, or they don't like where they are, and no matter what I say or what I do, I'm not the one that wrote the fucking list. But
have you seen the show Swagger? Did you see it ever?
Yeah, I did see it.
What did you think of it? What were your opinions?
No opinion. You know how this business is. I mean, it's
did they do a good job?
To the point is honesty in it, but it's over exaggeration in certain categories.
For sure.
But like any show, it's going to be exaggerations, and it's going to be politics. It's going to be, it's a show. But that's how this whole thing is. Like I talked to a father the other day. The father lives with the son. Wherever the son goes to school, the father lives in that. He's trying to get paid, and the kid got an attitude. Now, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to hurt his
no problem.
image or likeness, as they say. But, the kid goes out to Italy and shows his ass, and now the coach is like, I don't want to take him. I heard he's got this, and I heard he's a problem, and and because of the NIL, people are willing to take chances, more chances on risky people. But on the flip side, it's not worth you losing your job because somebody said that this kid was good in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. So now they're turning to the portal to say, let's take the top guys at the portal first, and then we'll worry about the other guys. So, and just dealing with the big kid I got, you got tiers of this. You got we can give him $50,000, we can give him $100,000, we can give him $250,000, we can give him $500,000, we can give him $1 million. I'm going with $1 million, because this is life-changing money, So my job isn't to worry about winning. And I know if I try to win, this kid would never touch the ball. I was just bringing good guards that can go coast to coast. My job is to make sure that he touches the ball and we can try to win in the process so he can do the best he can possibly do in order to get that maximum amount of money. All the coaches are looking for bigs. They're not looking for guards. They got the guards. The guards are already identified. So now you got teams that, I was watching Final play the other day, and Final goes with a lineup of all guards. Nobody's going to look at the guard playing power forward or center. They're going to look at the guard that's throwing the ball up the court, the guard that's scoring the ball, or the guard that's making the plays. And that's no knock, like I said, that's no knock to the kids or the coaches. It's just the modern day era of basketball. So, when the big guys aren't developed, there's nothing you can do about it other than suffer. Like, we talked about the kid Nas, and it's not just Nas, but some of the big guys from some of the other teams, they're not developed. My Tamar is not developed enough. Like, he's good, but if he was developed more, I still don't think he would touch the ball dealing with some of these teams and some of the systems that they run because it's guard oriented. So, you know, if I had to look at modern day recruiting, modern day NIL, modern day portal stuff, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like Forrester got the body. He looks like he's ready physically. He got the skill, and that's going to help him. Now he just needs experience. He just needs to learn through his experience. But if you got most high school guys that's not physically strong, or is not ready to play, you know what I mean? Like, they got to get stronger. They got to get more experience. They got to get better. I mean, it's one thing I saw even with Jake. Like, if Jake was stronger, and no question, he'd be already signed, sealed, delivered. But because he got to get stronger and he got to get more physical.
Still out there.
Yeah, it's still out there. So the jury's still out. The jury's always going to be out when you're socially marketing yourself. Like Jared McCain, Jake West, like I love those kind of kids that can market themselves the way they market themselves. Like, you can't be mad at Jake or Jared McCain. But God forbid they don't do well. Now here come the criticism, because now social media is that big where people will criticize you for the littlest thing. You know, let him fall while he's dancing, they're gonna criticize him. And let him miss a note while he's singing, they're gonna criticize him. Look at this, because he's popular. It gives you something to talk about. But that's the whole point and purpose of marketing. So, you know, with social media now, one move could get you 1 million likes or 500,000 followers or whatever the case may be. It's a whole different era now. So you can't say back in the day is better or worse. Back in the day is different.
Okay. Who are the next Rob Browns or Lonnie Lowrys? Do you see them out there yet, or did they sneak up and the next guys will sneak up? We won't ever really totally know that's how it works. Or can you see some names that you're going to mention now that people are going to be like, who? But in like 3 years, they're going to be like, oh, wow. Like, okay, Sam Rines is right.
There's some young guys out there that do the best, but most of them got a horse in the race. So when you got a horse in the race, it's hard to be a Lonnie Lowry. Like, Lonnie really got put on after college. You know what I mean? That's why you got to appreciate what he's done for the 20 years that he's been doing it. So, you know, it was post-college. You know, and he produced other players. So, you know, you can't be mad at that. And same with Rob. Like, they were at different eras. But the new guys, they're trying to latch on to the kid, the individual kid, instead of latching on to the team or the program or
building a rep.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, you know, I think Kamal is probably the closest to just maintaining to everything, because I think he does a great job at staying at the same level. And I think Final fell a little bit. I think Lonnie fell a little bit. But I think Pride is kind of, you know, they may not be winning, but they're still at the same level that they've been at. Mm-hmm. And then they still got a couple individuals that's making them look good. You know, the problem is when somebody leaves you to go to somebody else, then, you know, the eyes are open. The eyes, people are trying to figure out, why did you leave Pride to go to the Final? Why did you leave Final to go to Pride? And I remember the big kid from A&C left Final to go to Pride, I think, right?
Marquise Newsom is now with Pride?
Nah, what's the big kid that went to Division I and then transferred to Westchester?
Marcus Lewis.
So think about it. When he left the team to go to another team, people try to figure out what's going on. They think it's turmoil or problems, or, you know, instead of saying maybe he did what was best for him, and maybe it was the best thing for Final to get rid of him, because maybe he wasn't that good, or maybe he was looking for more opportunities somewhere else. Like, you can't figure those situations out. You just got to do what's best for the kid. And parents got to understand it's not about the sneakers no more. So if you're still worried about, like back in the day, it was more about the sneakers. Now, it's not a sneaker war. Nike already won that. So you can't say it's a sneaker war. Now it's about the opportunity war, and who got the best circuit and He's doing the best on the circuit. He's having success on the circuit. Because when you really think about it, you look at the guys. I don't necessarily look at the starters because I like all. You know, I like Big Mac, and the reason I say final because I like watching final because I know the kids, so I want them to have success. But like when you look at the kids at the end of the bench, and the kids that's on the bench, and you say, can Deuce get a scholarship? I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if the kid from mainland can get a scholarship. The kid from Wildwood or whatever. I don't know if he can get a scholarship right now. Not Division I. So, you know, before it was like, if you on the Nike circuit, you want to be up, oh, you guaranteed a scholarship. Now, it might be the top 3 or 4. And that's no knock against the team. That's just how watered down today's products are. You know what I mean? Can I say that scholars have 5 scholarship players? I mean, 5 D1 players?
The Scholars? In the beginning of the year they did. They don't even have a team anymore. They didn't finish the year.
They did finish the year. They're down a piece.
I mean, yeah, well, none of their teams is. But
yeah,
like
4-1. They're respectable. Mm-hmm. But, you know, bottom line is, can they, you know, spit out players that coaches want to see? You know, and that's the downfall because I'm looking at Mark Jackson's son.
Sharif.
Yep. And he's down at mostly Patriot schools. And he might be one of the best, if not the best player on the team. And I could be wrong, but he looked pretty good to me. You know, he went to NBA camp. He went to all the camps and everything. And people, I'm sure, might like him down the road. But, you know, if all you got is Patriot schools, you know, what is that saying to the rest of the team?
Well, we're also talking about John Linehan only getting D3. Sometimes these coaches are lazy.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Until they saw him play.
Yeah, it's true.
And when they saw him play, then, you know, went to D1. So, but what I'm saying is if the coaches, and this is where I think Final has an advantage, they have more connections and they can plug in the guys a little bit more. But when coaches say something that's not true, it might hurt a kid more than it helps a kid. Like if they say Jake West is a high major player or Forrester is a high major player and they don't show it, and people are saying they're not high major, they're low major, then all of a sudden the coaches start backing up from their commitment to the kids saying, I don't know about that. Like, you know what I mean? And like I tell people, it's not my job. I'd rather not talk about a kid than put a kid down. Mm-hmm. You know, because
I remember you having that conversation with me as an assistant.
Yeah, because it's not worth putting a kid in a bad situation, putting a coach in a bad situation. So I'd rather say what a kid is. Like I had a chance to talk to Jerry Easter and Jake West's father and a couple other parents, and I'm honest. Like, you know, I said, you know, Jake is a nice, solid, mid-level Division I player right now. But if he can get stronger and be a little bit more consistent on his jump shot and pass the ball a little bit better, he can play high major because he's smart enough and he plays hard enough to play at that level. But if somebody takes him now or takes Forrester or whatever, they'll be transferring in 1 year or they won't play. So go somewhere where you know you're going to play. There's nothing wrong with a Richmond. And Richmond is still right one level below a high major. You know, if Richmond offers you, I would take it. If VCU offers you, I would take it. If Dayton offers you, I would take it. You know what I mean? Like, the A-10 would be a great league for him. But would the Colonial be better? Of course, because he'll come in and play right away and be a star. But everybody's goal is not to go low or mid-major. Everybody's goal is to go high major. That's what you deal with.
What's next for Sam Rines? In the next 5 years, where would you like to be?
Sam Rines is taking Basketball Finders to another level, so we're going to work on that. And, you know, thank God for Twitter, because Twitter is good to me. And Wes Rines has taken over as far as videos and everything else.
Who is Wesley Rines? What does he do?
My son, he's in charge of marketing and development at Rock Top. He's one of the owners, and he has really taken over as far as what to say. Like, he's such a great writer, and his description of players and what people describe as basketball, he has a very good IQ for that, and that helps us when we're describing somebody on Basketball Finals. So I'll write what I write, and then I'll let him go ahead and change it, because he's that strong, word-wise. I mean, he's a lot better than I am, you know what I mean? Not saying I can't write or I can't talk, but, he's able to take it another level. And it's great because now coaches are literally calling us and saying stuff to us all the time about what we say about this particular kids. So we're able to take things to another level. We're able to show coaches what's out there and talk about kids and what level they're at without being too offensive or too, basically saying too much about a kid. I could say a kid is one of the, and it's like I could say you're either one of the best players in the country, or you're the best player in the country, or you are one of the top players in the country, and it's all choice of words. So you look at like a Jerry Easter, he's one of the best point guards in the EYBL. But if I said he was the best point guard, now I'm creating controversy that's not worth me conversating about, because it's not even my kid. It's just a kid that I've seen, a kid that I like. So it's my opinion. And it's not worth having a conversation about an opinion. Dealing with the 7th grade list, I mean, I got parents cursing me out on Instagram. You know where to find me. This is a nut-ass list. And I was just thinking to myself, do I want that smoke? Do I want that fire? And I had to think about it. Like Paul Gripper always told me, sometimes it's not worth putting people on your list, because if you put them on the list, they're never going to be happy. And I have to give Paul credit. He hit me to that early when he did a list with that one class with Chris Inge and Eric Dixon and everybody else. So, other than the top 2 or 3 guys, everybody was a question mark. You know what I mean? And they fight you at every point. So they will never be happy. So, I met Paul Bacardi, and he was like, let's see how he plays in the summer. And he's politically, he did it the right way, saying what he said. And there's politics in this. There's politics in it.
There always will be.
Always will. So I want to stay out of politics. I want to just have an opinion. Here's my top 10 guards that I've seen all summer. Here's my top 2 guards I've seen all summer. Here's my top, I don't want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want to put a number on a kid knowing that somebody else potentially is better or is going to be a better prospect. Because what's the difference between right now and prospect? Prospect, there's a lot of good players. Your father understands, like, I think Carmelo's son is a great prospect. I think LeBron's son is a good player. But no guarantee that Carmelo's son is going to be better than LeBron's son. Like, I can't predict that. Like, I'm never going to say that this is going to happen, or this is what it is, or this is what it could be. It's not worth me having that conversation. I just want to spit information out, let coaches know who these kids are, and then back out. Then you can talk about them all you want. They can ask me if I've seen them. I can say, yeah, I spent the week with them at such and such a camp. I like that. I really enjoyed going to Pengos and watching those kids and watching them go through the drills. And I sat there all day. I haven't sat there all day in years watching basketball in years.
Would you say that's where you are now? Like, where you fit is the scouting aspect of things?
Nah, I'm still a better guy to run Rock Top. I'm back coaching at Rock Top. Like, I got shit that I want to run. I got things I want to accomplish. Like, I want to beat IMG. I want to beat Mount Zion. I want to beat Fourth Union. I want to beat Massillon.
Coming for you, Boyle. Coming for you right now.
Yeah, I want to beat those teams, because at the end of the day, if I had the same talent, I know I could probably beat the shit out of it. I don't have that same talent. I got lesser talent. So when you're dealing with lesser talent, The kids got to do what you need. Kids got to do what you want them to do in order to win. Back in the day, I had those kind of kids, but now I don't. So now I'm trying to create that, and kids today don't know how to win. That's where a Kyle Lowry comes into play because he learned how to win. He's always been a winner. Sean Singletary, always been a winner. Like, they knew how to win. You know what I mean? And then you got guys that just...
Have you seen the new Kyle Lowry? There's a kid out there right now that is determined. I'm not saying he's going to be Kyle Lowry, but he's as intense as Kyle Lowry. Have you ever seen Ian Smith play?
Where's he from?
He goes to Imhotep. He plays for the Hollow.
Is that the guy who plays for Final?
He does not play for Final. He plays for the Hollow. Happy Hollow, or whatever. G is the guy's name.
He's in 8th grade?
He's about to be a freshman.
I heard about him, but I didn't see him play.
You want to see the same kind of mentality that Kyle was the very first, like when he was young, that he would tackle somebody just to win a game. Go see him play.
This is the problem with a young kid with that kind of talent.
I know he gets put right into Kyle Lowry, right?
Well, no. He's not going to get on the court for 2 years.
Oh, at Imhotep.
Yeah, because what's the little brother?
RJ Smith. I know, and the kid's Ian Smith.
Yeah.
Come to Rock Top right now, baby. Take 2-year red shirt.
It's just, they don't, when kids all go to the same school, then you got Jared Denard's son. So you got a long line of guards all waiting for what? I mean, I give Sean Colson credit for moving his son.
Multiple times.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you think playing with or behind a good player is going to help you,
it's not.
It's not. It's not worth sitting. You're better off getting the experience and everything else.
Think about it. Rob Kurz was the one that made it to the NBA. Yeah. Not Matt Walsh, not Lee Melchioni, not Ted Scucci's, all because he transferred and reclassed. Reclass, baby.
And then pick the right school. I mean, I talked to him. We used to live in Chestnut Hill together, and we used to talk about it. And bottom line is, when they always give you credit for the foundation and the mental part of it, that's all you can. You know what I mean? People, they want credit all the way through. Is pick the school. And I told him to go here. And, even Matt Carroll, like, I might have told him to go to Notre Dame, but his whole family went in. You know what I mean? So it's not, I can't say I'm the one that told him what to do or how to do it or whatever. All I said was, Matt, develop your ball handling, get one move that works for you, go to Notre Dame. Jimmy Dillon's at Notre Dame. And I knew, what's his name? That's all I can say. I'm a part of a major thing. And that's where I think guys got to stay out of the lives of other kids, to give them the best advice they can give them, but allow that other part or that other person, or that you don't want to be the one. And I'll give you a classic example. Like, Worldwide Wayne got blamed for Justin Edwards not getting drafted. Wayne is not the scout. He's not the one that picks the players. You know what I mean? So how's he to blame, or anybody else to blame, because somebody had him on the draft board as high as, 5?
Yeah, like a year ago or 2 years ago. Yeah.
So he didn't drop on the draft board until late in life. So how was he to know this was something that was going to happen? So we sit there, we point the finger at other people. How about pointing the finger at the player? How about being honest with the player? How about telling the player what he really is? How about working on what the player really needs to work on? I mean,
you feel like everybody's just on that. They leave so early. They want to get to the NBA so quick rather than just shake up and start over.
Well, the NIL made everything equal.
I know. So why are people like Justin Edwards still rushing to the NBA to be undrafted?
Because he got bad advice. So whoever was advising him to let him do something like that. But bottom line is, Justin made his own decision. The bottom line is, he should have known, like, damn, I can go back to school and make another $500,000. You know what I mean? Not get drafted and make $1 million, which they're going to take money from you. So if you really think about it, either way they're going to take money from you, but what's the rush when you can get guaranteed money up front? I'm telling tomorrow, what's the rush? Let's get that guaranteed college money, and then we'll get that guaranteed pro money. I talk.
How many pros did you end up having in your career? Because let's not forget, started this prep school with an NBA champion and borderline all-star. What's that guy's name again? I think he's hanging in Washington, D.C. right now. And actually, I thought it was funny that you picked Panera because isn't he the official sponsor of Panera? I saw him in a commercial. What's that guy's name again?
Kyle Lowry.
No, Kyle.
But when you really think about Kyle, right? Kyle did everything he was supposed to do to get where he had to go. I mean, before Kyle had the line right. So I think my NBA count, if I just counted guys that just wore my uniform, I think it's at 21.
So about almost the same as Team Fun.
Yeah, 21. But if I looked at the guys that actually spent more than a couple games, I think...
Before doing the Jimmy Salmons thing, love you, Jimmy.
I think probably 15, 14. Okay. And, it's weird because a pro to me, most of them I knew were going to be pros except for Kyle and other guys. Like there's certain guys I didn't know. But, I was telling people, like, if you didn't drag Eddie, what's the scout name? That was recruiting Andrew out.
Eddie Pinkney.
Ed Pinkney. So if you didn't drag Ed Pinkney to that back gym,
things could have been different.
Like people don't realize how Kyle really got to Villanova, and you're a lot, like you're a little bit bigger than what people think because I don't know if they would have saw him or looked at him in that same way if it wasn't for Ed. And you telling Ed to go to the back gym. And I remember that distinctly. Like me and Ed talked about it. Like we talked about this very thing last year, or 2 years ago, in Florida. Like we talked about, how Kyle got to Villanova. And I gave him the credit because I know what you told him to do. And he even said, I like him. And we talked about it. And, people don't realize just right place, right time, right kind of conversations. It's all luck. You know what I mean? And Sean Singletary, who had that same kind of talent, just didn't get that opportunity. So, Kyle had a chance to crash and burn, and he signed with a good agent. So, you can't be mad at that.
And he fought his way out of a lot of things where Kevin McHale traded him to Toronto saying, I'm never going to see you again. And everyone saw Kyle Lowry. I didn't realize how Kyle Lowry was until I watched a Pitch Perfect commercial for the NBA. You might remember this commercial. Kyle Lowry popped on with the Pitch Perfect girls. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. And then he got picked for the Olympic team. And here Lonnie and Marie went. And, people don't know, when people say, we know Kyle Lowry, you and me were at the house. Still one of the cleanest houses I've ever seen. Those red rugs. I'll never get it. Mom, it's funny when people say that, because a lot of people want to get into AAU. And they said, how did you do it? I said, I never ever asked anybody for anything. Sam Rines, I was driving somebody to a game in, Connecticut with a broken trunk. I held the trunk the whole day. Team final, Rob Brown, Rodney Westcott quit.
Kev and
you still talk to Kevin John and Irv Tunnel and all of them. Yeah. I mean, they only played one tournament for Sam Rines.
Two.
Yeah, two? Yeah. Oh yeah, they were good though. They were good fit.
They were nice kids too.
Relationships.
Bottom line is it's all about relationships. It's all about who you know, what you know, where you can get a kid, vice versa. How a kid can help you.
Can that get back to Philly? Can we restore the relationship and not worry so much about the money and the other stuff will work?
I was going to get back into AAU, but I want to start it at a younger level to kind of give the kids a chance to understand what it's all about. So, that's why I like Explosion, with Bernard Blunt. And he still put a lot of emphasis on winning. But, I think sometimes you just got to play kids in certain events. And then when it's time to win, now everybody or more kids are prepared to win. So it's just a function of making sure that everybody understands that spring, summer, and fall should be more about development more than winning. Wintertime, true basketball season, now you try to win.
Are you trying to say that we shouldn't have Philly Live?
Philly Live isn't about winning. It's about winning game. It's about winning while you play those particular showcase games, but it's more about the showcase.
It has done a really good thing. Like Kavar Kennedy is one of my favorite guards to watch, and he played Sidwell Friends and the number one point guard in the country. I don't know if you heard, and he got on the map with that, and I thought that was interesting. But one thing I always thought you ruined me for was you showed me too much about basketball, because I asked Jimmy Martelli, "Are you looking at it?" Now he's the people always look at the starters. They're like, he couldn't play. And I said, he just beat the number one player in the country. And you're Penn State. You're talking like you're Duke. I may cut this one out because I don't want to say this on record. You know what I mean? But we always looking for the starter instead of the role player that could start 4 years from now.
But that's what a high school player is now. A high school player will never come in and be a starter for a program unless the program has no intentions to win. Unless he's just coming in to develop a guy. And it's not saying the high school player isn't good enough, but guys are looking at the transfer portal more than the high school guys.
Oh, yeah, that's me and Martin get into arguments about that all the time. Yeah. There are guys that fall in the cracks all the time.
Like Martin, I see Martin make mistakes every single year.
Martin, we love you, baby. Get us some gear.
Every single year with some of the kids he bring in. And don't get me wrong, I understand you're loyal to some of the kids that you have, but you're moving to Conference USA and you're still recruiting Patriot level kids. Like, no knock against the kid from Perk, but they're not that good. Like, you know what I mean? He's a nice player. He'd be good in the Patriot League, but he's not a Conference USA player.
Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Gabe Tanner or are you talking about KJ Cochran?
I don't know his name. Big kid that went to Perk.
Oh, okay. All right, I think I know who you're talking about. Oh, Hauser or something like that.
Yeah, like, and the brother goes there.
Yeah.
But don't waste a scholarship on nepotism. Like, that's like having LeBron's son
play for the Lakers. Go back to Duquesne.
Yeah,
Love you, Bron. By the way, still mad about 2002.
Yeah, but you remember that?
Yeah. All right, here, I got one. You remember the movie Inside Out? This is how we're going to finish. You seen it?
No.
You used to always be a movie guy. It was about core memories. If there are 4 memories about coaching Sam Rines, what would be your 4 best memories as a coach, as a mentor, as anything? You look back and be like, I'm proud of my program.
Number 1, Kobe. No particular time or era or game, but
just the impact he had, and that you played a part in it. They can't take. Well, everybody else says he played from my program. Deep down, he was your was your program. He launched your program.
He was the foundation. Number 2 got to be Rip Hamilton. Same thing, same situation, same category. I love Rip.
You had the best statement though, that you changed his life, because there's a guy that has an up-and-coming son, DeMar Salisbury, that was the 5th guy on Doc's team, named Dustin Salisbury, and he went to Temple ahead of Big East schools, and Rip's dad wanted him to go to Temple, and everything changed because he went to UConn.
Yeah,
and
I don't think people understood the resources that we put in to help Rip get to Connecticut. Like,
especially back then.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed that I didn't get rewarded for it. Not from Rip's side, but from other people's side. Mm-hmm. I helped.
Like Adidas and like Jim Calhoun and those guys.
Yeah, like certain people should have helped me in that situation, so I helped them.
Hobbs.
But I don't want to mention names.
Yeah, exactly. I'll do it.
And he knows it, so it's not like something that he didn't know it. But he I think it just spun out of control at the end where he couldn't. It's like, when you can't give somebody credit, but you want to say something, but you can't because it's too late. I think it's one of those situations.
Okay.
But I realized, I'm not mad at him either, but I realized what happened. And then the third situation was winning a hoop group with 5 guys, 4 guys, because I couldn't get Terrence Roderick. So but just doing well in that tournament, winning with 4 guys was amazing.
Who were those 4 guys? Do you remember?
I know Matt.
Matt Nolan would have been around that time, probably.
It was Mike Scott, Terrence Roderick, Big Matt, not Matt Walsh, Matt Walden, Mike Rhodes, and I think Matt Nunn and somebody else.
Okay.
But we only had 4 to start the game.
Won the tournament, huh?
Yeah, and won the whole thing.
Okay. Last one.
And
Get
then
one more.
last one would have to be, it's a tough one.
Because you know whoever hears this is going to call back.
Prior to year, we had like 27 Division I guys. And the reason why that was such a great year was you had one team, we lost in the Elite Eight to Jimmy. We had Troutman, Johnson, all those guys. And my other team had Dave, Jay Joseph, and all those guys on that team with Pat Carroll and Scooches and all them. And then my third team had DJ, Marv Kilgore. Just 3 good teams. And then the number of players coming out all 3 teams were just from top to bottom was bananas.
All right. Just want to thank you again for your time, taking out busy your day. Just great time to catch up. Anybody who wants to check out basketballfinders.com, where else can they find Rock Top? Is it rocktop.com?
www.rocktopacademy.com. And we always need players that want to go to college and do well.
And for all you hating parents out there, tell your kid to get back in the gym. Stop wasting your time calling Sam.
Stop bullshit.
All right, work on the handle. All right, have a good day. Take care.
So what you should do